Discover 3 spine-chilling true tales revealed with terrifying photographs and sinister video footage. In the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, everything seemed perfect. Sunlight toasting children on swing sets, laughter echoing off manicured lawns, until one stormy evening disrupted the calm. Rachel, a single mother devoted to her 2 young kids, rummaged through the attic, searching for a flashlight amid forgotten family relics. That's when her son stumbled upon an old, dusty camera, a brutal relic from a past shrouded in mystery. He switched it on, and to their horror, faded photographs blinked back. Smiling neighbors, family picnics, but was that a shadow lurking behind innocence? Rachel's heart raced. In one haunting image of the local park, standing just behind a radiant mother and her children, loomed a menacing figure. None other than the charismatic school principal, a man adored by every parent in town. Panic gripped Rachel's gut as she unraveled more terrifying photographs. A black heaviness settled in her chest as she buried her nose in town archives, discovering unsettling truths. Disappearances tied to the school, all buried deep, whispered threats beneath the surface of her idyllic community. How could such horror hide in plain sight? Late that night, her phone rang, shattering the silence. An empty breath on the other line sent shivers down her spine. The following days revealed cryptic messages lurking on her porch, each chilling note marked with shaky handwriting, ramping up her anxiety. They taunted her resolve. The neighbors who once made her feel at home now wore false smiles, as if bound by a collective dread. Could they sense her unfolding terror? With each night, sleep escaped her, amplifying the cacophony of paranoia pounding in her ears. Rachel concocted an escape plan while darkness pooled around her house. The shadows outside whispering secrets seemed to grow closer. She gathered what she could, heart pounding. Time was running out. She had to confront the principal, the one figure she thought she could trust. The confrontation wasn't easy. She uncovered disturbing connections to a long-neglected local legend, an evil spirit that thrived on the fears buried under the surface of Willow Creek, entwining her family's history with its memory. Just as she pieced together the gnawing reality of her existence, a thunderous knock echoed at her door. Her breath hitched. "Don't worry, Rachel. You've always been part of Willow Creek. It's time you understand what that really means." The principal's voice oozed through the cracks as the air grew thick, suffocating her like a heavy fog. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." In that moment, dread coiled around her throat. Did they all know? Each sinister smile, a mask, hiding complicity beneath the surface. They had their secrets, murderous whispers buzzing through the suburb. As the principal's voice echoed in her mind, Rachel felt the grip of childhood stories. The folklore she had dismissed wrap around her. Her cozy neighborhood had become an abyss filled with despair and violence. In that realization, she knew she had to act. The dark truths of Willow Creek were about to erupt, and if she didn't move fast, her children would be caught in the crossfire. How could she escape this nightmare? The echoes of the principal's voice seeped into Rachel's mind, swirling with the suffocating darkness that filled her home. Her heart thumped loudly, drowning out the ominous atmosphere surrounding her. Each pulse was a reminder that time was running thin. She stumbled backward, casting frenzied glances around. What if the whispers outside were more than just shadows? What if the once harmless residents of Willow Creek had morphed into something far worse? She could feel the walls closing in, the very fabric of her safe haven unraveling like a worn-out thread. The memories of laughter and friendly chats turned bitter. Her hands trembled as she gripped the old camera that prompted this nightmare. A dark thought crept in. Would she find more secrets hidden inside the device? What other horrors lay within its creaking frame? With determination clawing at her throat, Rachel dashed to the living room where the faint light of the television flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. She needed answers. Quickly, she set the camera on the table and began to rummage through the scattered photographs.
The principal's face leered at her from every corner, his smile a twisted mask under the dim light. Her fingers trembled as she flipped through the images, desperately searching for anything that could provide a clue. She paused on one photograph, a winter scene of children building a snowman, cheerful smiles all around, and the principal, oddly enough, lurking in the background. But this time, something different captivated her attention. A figure, hooded and cloaked in shadow, loomed closer to him than before, hidden within the depths of the white snow. It seemed to glimmer, almost alive. Just then, her phone buzzed violently on the table, breaking her trance. She jumped, heart racing as she answered, her breath caught in her throat. "Hello?" she whispered, expecting dread. Static crackled through the line. Then she heard it, a low voice, barely a whisper. "The past never stays buried, it bleeds. Beware the ones who smile." The call ended, leaving her in stunned silence.
The chilling words hung heavy in the air, each syllable a reminder of the principal's looming presence. She dropped the phone, anger igniting her fear. Whoever was haunting her would not take her children, not while she still drew breath. Outside her window, she heard footsteps. She crouched low, peering through the curtains. Shadows moved in sync with the rustle of wind. Figures from the neighborhood? No. They were too still, too precise in their movements. A gathering, perhaps. A meeting under the cover of darkness, plotted against her? She felt her breath hitch again. This was more than just the principal. An entire community, wrapped in silence, shadows holding hands with evil. Khaki pants shifted in her periphery. She caught a glimpse of a familiar face. Mrs. Thompson, her sweet neighbor, who had always brought cookies over during the holidays, now wore a sinister smile as she stood by the group, staring in Rachel's direction. The knowing glint in her eyes sent icy fingers crawling down Rachel's spine. "Rachel?" The voice called out sweetly, but the undertone felt sharp, sliced through the air like an approaching storm. "Join us. You're more like us than you know." Rachel backed away from the window, the walls of her own home now closing in faster than before. Her body was frozen, caught in the dawning horror of realization. She understood. There was no escape. She was trapped in a town that had long abandoned its innocence. The camera flashed as more images flooded her mind. Faded memories of evenings spent sipping lemonade on porches, laughter echoing into the stillness. And now, the dark truth behind cheerful faces. And just as she turned, seeking a route of escape, another knock at her door shattered her last shred of courage. This time it was softer, almost coaxing. "Rachel, it's time. You have a choice to make." The world outside felt suffocating, the shadows thickening with each moment. What decision lay before her? Would she confront the darkness head-on, or would she unknowingly embrace it? With a heart battered by fear, Rachel took a breath, prepared to make the hardest choice of her life, as the door creaked open. The door swung open, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness. Rachel squinted, trying to make sense of who stood before her. The form loomed, tall and imposing, its features obscured by the dim light in her home. She felt the air thickening around her, pressing down like a weight on her chest. "Join us," the figure urged, voice smooth yet laced with a chilling undertone. "We've been waiting." A jolt of adrenaline shot through her. She couldn't trust this thing. Desperation clawed at her mind. Her instincts screamed to run, but her feet felt as if they were rooted to the floor. She needed time. Time to think. Time to breathe. But time was slipping away. Behind the figure, Rachel could see the shadows of her neighbors gathering, their faces shrouded in a malevolent glow. Mrs. Thompson's smile widened, revealing too many teeth, like a predator ready to pounce. "Don't you remember the fun we had, Rachel?" Mrs. Thompson continued, stepping closer, now impossibly vibrant against the night. "This can be your chance to belong again." The warmth that once radiated from this community had turned icy. Rachel's mind raced back to all those memories, a backyard barbecue, children playing tag, summer nights filled with laughter. All she felt now was betrayal, the innocence of those days twisted beyond recognition. "Get out of my way," she hissed, forcing her voice to remain steady, even as she trembled. "You're not my friends. You're monsters." At her words, the shadows flickered. Gasps rippled through the group outside. The soft whisperings erupted into harsh murmurs, filling the air with a discord that made Rachel's skin crawl. Rage flared in their eyes. They didn't like being called monsters. They liked their dark fun shrouded in smiles. The figure stepped closer, a hand extending toward her in an invitation filled with despair. Why fight the truth? Don't you want to be part of something bigger? Conformity can be liberating. We all have our sacrifices. Her stomach twisted. What did they mean by sacrifices? The whispers of the past hung heavy. Were these her friends willing to turn against her now? Each moment felt stretched, agonizingly close to the edge of oblivion. Time was a cruel mistress. The flashing lens of the camera she had left on the table caught her eyes. The moment held its breath, tearing her between fear and the sudden allure of the strange pull she felt toward the shadows outside. What if it's not just conformity? Rachel shouted, grasping for a glimmer of courage. What if it's about survival? A murmur of uncertainty rippled through the gathering. The figure's outstretched hand faltered. For a flickering moment, doubt echoed in their collective gaze. Perhaps they hadn't counted on her fighting back. Rachel stepped out onto the porch, adrenaline coursing through her veins like wildfire. "Tell me what you're hiding," she demanded. The shadows shifted, quaking in her fierce defiance. In that beatheart of defiance, she felt a power surge through her, an energy fueled by desperation. The camera was still. She fumbled for it instinctively, desperate to capture them, to expose their horrors. She snapped a photo. The flash lit up the night. A shriek pierced the air as the images from the camera whirled around her, coiling like thick tendrils into the darkness. Faces emerged, twisted with rage and despair, each snapshot a portal to their hidden truths. And then the beat heart returned, a pulsing, relentless thrum emanating from the camera. She felt it in her bones, resonating with the secrets buried deep within this town. "Do you want to understand?" the figure pressed, a veneer of calmness slipping away. "Then embrace the pain. Embrace us."
Rachel stood at the crossroads of light and shadow, terror gripping her heart. What if I don't want to? With a final breath, she took another step forward, ready to delve deeper into the darkness surrounding her home. The camera flickered again, and the darkness pulsed back, hungry and eager. What ancient fear lay beneath the charming facade of Willow Creek? Rachel held her breath, heart pounding, aware that the door to truth had opened, yet the shadows had stories of their own. The night air crackled with tension, energy swirling like a storm. Rachel's heart raced as shadows danced on the porch, flickering and changing shape. She gripped the camera tightly, its weight grounding her as chaos unfolded around her. "Look!" she shouted, raising the camera high. "You want me to join your sick little club? Show me what you really are!" The figure's smile contorted into a snarl, revealing sharp, glistening teeth. "You think we're afraid of the light. You have no idea what darkness is." With that, the shadows surged forward, enveloping the porch like a black tide. Rachel snapped another photo, the flash illuminating the grotesque faces swirling in the dark. Each time the light exploded, she caught glimpses of the truth, their eyes glowing with an unnatural hunger, mouths stretching too wide, impossibly inhuman. The camera's clicks echoed like gunshots, loud against the quiet night. The figures recoiled, snarls turning to hisses. A thrill shot through Rachel. She was not powerless, not yet. But as the darkness pulsed forward, she felt the ground beneath her slip away, a cold grip clawing at her ankles. "Stop resisting!" the figure commanded, voice rising above the growing disarray. "This is what we are. This is what you are meant to be." Rachel shook her head, pushing back against the suffocating pull of despair. "No, I'm human. You're monsters." The air chilled as an eerie silence fell. The others hesitated, eyes darting to one another as doubt wove through their ranks. Time stood still, drawn out in dread. Her pulse thudded in her ears, and in that moment she realized fear blamed her, just like it blamed them. "I won't let you take me," she screamed defiantly. "You're not even real." "Denial is your weakness," the figure hissed. "You can't hide from the truth that courses through our veins. It's in your blood, too." The camera vibrated, the heartbeat intensifying to a drum roll. Rachel could feel its energy sinking with her own, a hypnotic pull, urging her to surrender. Images started flashing in her mind.
the sacrifices the town made, the smiles hiding dark secrets, all of them had played their part in this grotesque dance. Suddenly, from the depths of the shadows, a voice broke through, soft yet spine-chilling. "You could have had everything, Rachel. Join us, and you will never be alone again." Behind her neighbors, figures loomed, shifting like mirages.
Familiar faces, some from her past, friends, childhood companions, each wrapped in a veil of darkness. Desperation twisted in her gut. Could they really want her back? Were their twisted smiles genuine? "No," she gasped. "This isn't what friendship means." The figure in front of her stepped forward, its hand brushing against her cheek like a lover's caress. "Then let's see how far you'll go to protect them. Are you willing to lose it all?" With a jolt, Rachel felt the camera slip through her fingers, falling to the ground. The world tipped, and darkness surged once more. She turned to flee, but as she did, shadows wrapped around her, dragging her backward. Her scream pierced the night, but it was swallowed whole by the growing cacophony of darkness. Suddenly, a burst of light, a kaleidoscope of colors, exploded around her as the camera launched into the air, catching every frantic moment. Faces of her townsfolk swirled through the air in arresting clarity. Fear, rage, desperation, longing, and something darker still. Rachel clasped her hands over her ears, shutting out the rumbles of anger. This was more than a fever dream. It was a battle for her soul. She looked up, meeting the enigma thriving in the shadows. "I refuse to be one of you!" But even as she declared her refusal, the shadows crept closer, hungry for acceptance. What if she was too late? What truths lurked behind those wicked eyes? Her pulse raced. She had to try to uncover the hidden stories of the town before she lost herself in the darkness. As Rachel seized the camera again, adrenaline surged. She would face them, face the truth, whatever it might cost her. But the question rose like an insistent whisper. Could she unearth the horrors of Willow Creek before they consumed her? And just as dawn approached the horizon, an echo resonated, chilling her to the bone. "You can never escape once you know the truth." Rachel felt an electric surge race down her spine as she steadied the camera, determination hardening her grip. The shadows hissed and writhed, closing in, their whispers scraping against her mind like nails on glass. She could feel them pushing, testing her resolve, while the familiar faces of her friends twisted into something nightmarish. The light from the camera pulsed erratically, matching the frantic beat of her heart. Each flash revealed more horrors, friends with contorted smiles, family members whose features were stretched, warped beyond recognition. Was this what they had become? Was this the truth hidden beneath the laughter and small-town charm? With every picture snapped, Rachel felt the shadows shift, retreating slightly, just enough to allow her breath to escape her lips. "I see you," she shouted into the dark. "You can't hide from me." "Foolish girl," the figure sneered, unfazed by her words. "This is your destiny, not an escape. You're connected to us in ways you can't fathom. We belong to each other, whether you understand it or not." The grinding sensation of dread coiled tighter around her chest. The air thickened, suffocating with revelation, and the truth dangled before her like a ripe fruit ready to drop. Fear and curiosity wrestled within her as the camera vibrated in her hand, an anchor in the storm. But fear clawed back. Were they right? Could she ever really sever the bond forged by the darkness of Willow Creek? The memories flooded her mind. Neighbors' joys, silent sacrifices, and unvoiced regrets. Suddenly, a blazing light ignited from the lens. Rachel squinted, almost blinded, but she pressed the shutter once more. This time, chaos erupted. A shriek tore through the air as a tidal wave of shadows recoiled, a wretched sound that echoed through the night. Long, spider-like limbs retreated, and the anguished faces of her neighbors swirled in the light. "Don't look at us," one cried, the familiarity twisting into a warning. "You'll know too much." But Rachel's courage tumbled forth. "I want to know. Show me." She felt the shadows tighten around her ankles once more, icy tendrils grasping, trying to pull her down. Pain shot through her as she held her ground. "I am not afraid of you. You are just echoes of fear." With a vicious snarl, the figure lunged towards her, teeth bared. Rachel snapped another photo, capturing the grotesque motion, and the flash momentarily illuminated the truth in full. For the briefest second, she saw it, the connection, the pulsing energy that tied the villagers to their dark fate. The chains of despair unfurling around her seemed momentarily halted. "You see it," the same voice from before, soft yet slithered with dread. "You can't unlearn this. Once the truth is revealed, your soul is ours."
Rachel gasped. The wind knocked from her lungs as an overwhelming feeling of darkness washed over her. What if she was too late? What if the truth would indeed bind her to the abyss? But then she remembered the camera. A lifeline. It was her weapon. Rachel forced her eyes back to the swirling shadows, pushing through the panic rising in her throat. What are you so afraid of? That I will fight back? The figures halted, their ghastly faces twisting in uncertainty. They were no longer unified, and doubt began seeping into the darkness. The air thickened, crackling with energy and fear, and Rachel seized the moment. She aimed the camera like a beacon, pleading for one last chance. Reveal yourselves! Show me everything! With anguish painted across their faces, the dark figures recoiled, and Rachel felt a fierce surge of power roar to life within her. But then, just as she thought she finally had control, the shadows burst into a violent frenzy, swirling like a cyclone. The camera flickered as darkness engulfed her vision, and in a deafening roar, one last voice shattered the storm. You have no idea what you're unleashing! As the shadows rushed to consume her, Rachel felt the camera slip from her grasp, plunging into the abyss.
In an instant, all light disappeared, and despair wrapped around her like a shroud. The fleeting thought pressed upon her mind. Would she discover what lurked behind the veil of darkness? Or would she become just another lost soul in the cursed legacy of Willow Creek? The darkness receded, leaving Rachel suspended in nothingness. But above the sound of her own heartbeat came the chilling whisper. You will know our hunger. What truth lay hidden? What darkness awaited her? Rachel gasped as the darkness faded, replaced by a blinding white light. The sudden transition knocked the air from her lungs, and she instinctively shielded her eyes. It felt surreal, almost peaceful, but she couldn't let herself be fooled. The echoes of the shadows still hummed in the back of her mind, a symphony of dread left unresolved. As her vision adjusted, she found herself standing on a worn dirt road. Fog spiraled around her, swallowing the world just beyond a few feet. The air was thick with an unsettling chill, clinging to her skin like an unwelcome caress. She glanced down. The camera was back in her hand, its surface warm despite the cold. But where was she? Where had those shadows taken her? The road stretched out endlessly, flanked by gnarled trees whose branches twisted like skeletal fingers. A faint rustling tugged at the edges of her senses, a reminder that she was not alone. Eyes lurking beyond the veil of fog watched her, waiting. Hello? She croaked, the word barely rising above the soft whispers that swirled around her. The echoes from the shadows drifted in her ears, a lullaby of lost souls. The fog thickened, wrapping around her hunched shoulders, but she pressed on, her heart a drum in the silence. With each step, she felt the ground pulse beneath her feet. It was as if the earth breathed, alive and aware. She raised the camera, desperate for answers. The shadows were woven into this reality, and she needed to capture the truth before it slipped away again. Click. The flash illuminated the road, revealing fleeting moments, hazy figures moving just out of sight, their features obscured but unmistakably familiar. Friends and neighbors twisted in agony, their mouths opened in silent screams, as if trapped in an eternal nightmare. She shuddered, bile rising in her throat. Stop! No more! She shouted, shoving the camera down to her side. But the whispers only grew louder, dragging her back into the fray. They wanted her to join them, to feel their fear, their pain. What do you want from me? She pleaded, though the answer felt obvious. Then she heard it, a voice that chilled her bones. You belong here. You cannot escape us. It echoed off the trees, a twisted memory wrapped in venomous promise. Rachel's breath quickened. Escape? Did that even exist in this God-forsaken place? But as uncertainty clawed at her mind, she steeled herself. They wanted her, yes, but the camera, it was her lifeline, her way of fighting back. She raised it once more, determined to break the spell gripping her. Another click, another flash. This time, the light engulfed her. As the brightness dimmed, a figure stepped forward, shadowed but unmistakably human. It was her mother, eyes sunken, mouth cracked into a strained smile. Join us, sweetheart. We're waiting. Despair washed over Rachel, an overwhelming wave crashing against her resolve. No, I won't be trapped.
She stepped back, heart pounding in rebellion, but the ground beneath her erupted with an agonizing scream, a warning she could not ignore. The fog spun around her, merging into a formless haze that eventually transformed into faces, their expressions contorted. They crowded her, taunting, beckoning, each whisper laden with memories she had suppressed. "Turn back now, and forever be one of us." The voices blended into a cacophony of grief and madness, their twisted intentions clear as the shadows loomed ever closer. Rachel's grip tightened on the camera. She could see it absurdly clearly in her mind. The path forward was fraught with danger, but by turning back, she accepted their fate. Her heart raced, and with fierce determination, she aimed the camera again. "Show me the truth," she cried out, desperation coloring her voice. But that desperate cry was met with a dreadful stillness. The world held its breath as Rachel stood, teetering on the precipice of revelation and ruin. What would she uncover in the depths of shadows? What truths lurked beneath that haunting surface of Willow Creek? Would she discover the key to freedom, or was she destined to become another whisper in the darkness? Rachel squinted against the fading brightness, pulse pounding in her ears. The figures swirled around her like a storm, their whispers blending into an indecipherable drone. She could feel their cold breaths, their hunger wrapping tighter around her throat, suffocating her resolve. "Don't look away," a voice murmured just behind her, chilling her blood. Fear coursed through her veins, urging her to flee, but her legs felt heavy, locked in place by an unseen force. She could almost feel their fingers grazing her back, creeping along her spine, pulling her toward the darkness. "Show me the truth," she shouted again, her voice cracking. The silence that followed was deafening, pressing against her chest like a weight. Her heart raced, fear clawing at her throat. Rachel turned the camera toward the foggy faces surrounding her, desperate for salvation. A flash, another moment captured, faces contorted in agony, trapped in an endless loop of despair. She stumbled back as she recognized them, friends she had laughed with, neighbors she had brushed past, all twisted by suffering. Each picture burned into her mind like a brand, revealing the hidden pain behind their once familiar smiles. But with every flash came a shock, a jolt that shot through her arm. It was like the camera was alive, throbbing with energy, a tether between her and whatever darkness dwelled here. Rachel gasped at the connections forming, connecting shadow and light, pain and deceit. The whispers rose again, a crescendo of cruel laughter echoing in her mind. "You see them, don't you? They've been waiting, just like you," they taunted. She staggered as their words settled deep within her. The truth. It was the truth they wanted her to find, and she was terrified of what that meant. "Please, let me go," she cried out, but the words were swallowed by the darkness that loomed. She recoiled as the shadows shifted, swirling to form a wall of despair around her. Each one pressed a memory against her, a reminder of what she had lost. Was their fate her own? A ripple of fear coursed through the ground, as if the earth itself shuddered at her realization. She could feel it beneath her feet, a pull that seemed determined to drag her down into the depths of those whispers. Rachel aimed the camera once more, not to reveal, but to discover. With breath held and trembling fingers, she clicked again. The world exploded into light. In that moment of brightness, amidst the agony, she glimpsed a flicker of hope. A figure standing apart from the rest, cloaked in a shroud of shimmering light. Their features were indistinct, yet they radiated warmth, cutting through the chill of despair. "Help me," Rachel screamed, feeling a connection to the figure, a sense of calling that screamed louder than the shadows. "Why are you here?" As the brightness faded once more, the figure moved closer, their gaze piercing through the fog. "You must remember, Rachel, or they will claim you." Beneath her, the ground trembled violently, anger surging in the air. The shadows swelled again, a storm of darkness threatening to consume her. In that chaotic swirl of fear and revelation, one thought pierced through Rachel's mind with terrifying clarity. What if remembering was the key to her survival, but also the door to a greater horror? As the cacophony of voices turned into a deafening scream, she braced herself for the truth that was about to unfold. Would she uncover her mother's secret, or would she become just another lost soul, moaning amidst the fog? The shadows plunged closer, their whispers now a chant, echoing all around. "Join us, join us." And as Rachel fought against the tide of darkness, she wondered, what would it take to break free? Would she dare to remember?
The light flickered and went out, plunging Rachel into a raw, suffocating darkness. Fear knotted in her stomach as despair clutched at her throat. This wasn't just darkness. It felt alive, writhing, and hungry. She squeezed the camera tightly, desperate for the flash to cut through the gloom again. But the whispers held her captive. "You have to choose. The truth or your life," they hissed, curling around her like thorny vines. Rachel's heart raced.
The figure from before, the one that shimmered with light, had vanished, leaving her with nothing but the relentless darkness and echoes of agony. She couldn't let them win. Closing her eyes, she focused hard, her childhood memories flooding back. The laughter of friends at the park, her mother's comforting touch, her father's smile as he tucked her into bed. But as each memory unfolded, it felt as if they were being dragged back into the shadows, twisted, reshaped into something grotesque. The air around her thickened, each breath more difficult to take. "Remember," the shadows urged softly, juxtaposing their sinister presence with a twisted sense of encouragement. "Remember, or suffer the fate of those who didn't." "Stop! Just stop!" she pleaded, her voice cracking. A sharp pain lanced through her chest, and she gasped, clutching at where it hurt. It felt like a blow, a visceral reaction to the truth waiting in the depths of her mind. Rachel hesitated, unwilling to uncover the horrible realities that lurked within those memories. Yet the camera buzzed in her hands, an electric pulse that seemed to resonate with her heartbeat. What if uncovering those memories could hold the key to her escape? The weight of her decision loomed heavily above her. "Just one more flash," she whispered to herself, fear coiling tightly in the pit of her stomach. "One last chance." With trembling fingers, she raised the camera and focused on the oppressive darkness. Desperation surged as she pressed the button. Light erupted in a blinding flash, then stopped. The scene materialized, and she stood there, frozen in horror. A scene from her past twisted beyond recognition, a birthday party gone wrong, laughter turning into screams, cake smeared with blood instead of frosting. Faces she had known, distorted in a nightmare of anguish, reached out to her. Friends she had loved turned to shadows, faces blurred in masquerades of terror. "No!" Rachel screamed, dropping the camera. It clattered to the ground, the unforgiving flash lingering in her mind. How could her happiest memories morph into this? The shadows closed in tighter, their hunger surging as her memories spilled forth unbidden. She was losing herself in the sea of despair. The weight grew heavier, grinding her down. Tears streamed down her face. "I won't forget. I will survive." Silence fell, an unnatural stillness that pulled back the shadowy tide. And then the voice came again, eerily calm, cutting straight through her panic. "To remember is to suffer, but to forget is to die," it warned with a chilling finality. Clenching her fists, Rachel felt a spark of defiance ignite within her. "Then I choose to remember," she declared, determined. "No longer will I let you take control. I will expose you." With that proclamation, the shadows shrieked, a cacophony of rage swirling around her. The ground trembled violently, as if trying to reject her words. "Help me!"
Rachel called out. But now the call felt stronger, more resonant. Beyond the darkness, would the figure return? The shadows swirled around her, threatening to drown her in despair. "Join us, they whispered again. But Rachel stood firm, repeating her mantra. "I will remember." What she didn't know was that each heartbeat, each echo of her past, drew nearer to something far more dangerous, a truth that might seal her fate even tighter than the shadows trying to consume her. As the darkness pulsed, something large and insidious began to stir. The camera, disgustingly quiet beneath her feet, flickered, hinting at unrevealed horrors yet to come. She anticipated their next move, but still, panic gripped her. What lay ahead in the depths of her forgotten memories? And, more importantly, what would happen when she finally faced the truth waiting there to pounce? Each breath seemed to echo in the heavy darkness that surrounded Rachel. The chilling whispers intensified, morphing into desperate cries, as if many souls were fighting for a way out. "You will remember, or you will perish." The weight of their torment squeezed her heart with icy fingers. With a shuddering resolve, Rachel bent to pick up the camera. Its screen pulsed faintly against the abyss, a heartbeat in the silence. She felt the pull of the darkness, wanting to consume her memories whole. The shadows rippled violently, and dread tightened around her like a noose. "What are you?" she shouted, hoping to rattle whatever force held her captive. The shadows trembled, then coiled tighter, vibrating with venomous energy. Finally, an answer came through, echoing like rolling thunder. "We are the truths you hide, the past you wish to forget." The air thickened, the room constricted around her as if cornering a prey. Rachel struggled to pull the camera close, her fingers shaking. "Show me," she demanded, clenching her jaw. "I won't back down." A tremor coursed through the darkness as the camera began to flicker again. She steadied her breath, heart racing in anticipation of what horrors she might see. Another flash blistered against the darkness, and images crystallized before her eyes. In snatches, scenes unfolded. Her childhood bedroom transformed into a grotesque version of itself. The wallpaper peeled back, revealing whispers of blood-stained secrets layered underneath. In one flashing moment, she witnessed herself, wide-eyed and terrified, backed into a corner as shadows danced around her. A trapped child held captive by her fears. "No, no, no," she gasped, desperately trying to shake away the horrific vision. But it was too late. The past had come clawing back. Each horrifying memory was a grip on her throat, choking her with despair. Friends that she had once cherished morphed into twisted specters, their smiles stretched into deranged grins. She could feel the heaviness rising in her chest, threatening to stifle her cries. "How could this be my reality? You're lying!"
She screamed, voice breaking. "This can't be the truth." "Lies are what we feed on, child," the shadows cooed mockingly. "Face your fate, or let it devour you." Staggering against the unseen force, Rachel dropped the camera again, allowing panic to surge through her. She looked around, trying to locate the shimmers of light from before, searching for a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. "Help me!" she called again, more fervently this time. For a deafening moment, silence swallowed her words, yet something within her sparked, a defiance that flickered as disturbingly bright as the fading memories. Without thinking, she snatched the camera up once more. No more hiding, no more lies. With a renewed sense of purpose, Rachel raised the camera, feeling its weight steady her trembling hands. "Show me the truth, all of it," she declared, her voice a clarion call against the looming void. A final flash burst forth, illuminating a memory locked away in her mind. A secret buried beneath layers of guilt. A party that had spiraled into chaos. And there she stood, not as a child, but as a witness, watching, unable to intervene, helpless in the face of unthinkable horror. A friend fell, heart-stopping, and she had done nothing to save them. The realization crashed into her, sharp and unforgiving. The darkness swelled at her revelation, lashing out in rage. "You should have stayed quiet," it shrieked, its jagged breath twisting through the air around her. Fear seeped into her bones, but beneath it burned a fierce insistence. This was her truth. Rachel braced herself for the storm, knowing she had ignited something dangerous. The shadows writhed, boiling with fury, yet beneath that chaos, there was a flicker of light. Suddenly, a figure materialized through the storm, radiant and unwavering. Rachel's heart soared. Was it the shimmering presence that once offered hope? "You need to understand," the figure called out, voice soothing yet urgent amidst the fray. What other truths must she uncover? But as the darkness roared and the light glimmered closer, the violence of their clash sent Rachel reeling. Would she survive to piece the remnants of her past together, or would the shadows consume everything she desperately fought to remember? A surge of urgency pushed her forward, but with the imminent truth of her past, she felt the pinnacle of horror awaiting her next move. What would happen if she followed the light? What hidden terror beckoned within her memories? The swirling chaos around her twisted tighter, holding her captive to the brink of revelation. She took a breath, teetering on the edge of an abyss, ready to leap into the unknown. Rachel stood at the crossroads of fear and revelation, heart pounding wildly in her chest. The air crackled with tension, the fading light pulsing against the onslaught of shadowed figures threatening to envelop her. Recognition flared in her mind, illuminating the hazy memories once lost in the fog of time. She digested the fragments of truth, piecing together a horrifying puzzle. "Your past wants you back," the shadows taunted, twisting the air around her with their menacing whispers. "This is your legacy. You cannot escape." But Rachel was done running. She met the swirling darkness with fierce defiance. I won't be a part of this. My story doesn't end here, she shouted, feeling the words rise from deep within her, igniting the courage she didn't know she had left. The figure of shimmering light pulsated closer, cloaked in hope but nodded with urgency. You must confront the darkest parts of yourself, Rachel. Only then can you save not just you, but the others trapped in this curse. As daylight crept closer to dawn, she gathered her resolve, clutching the camera like a talisman. A wave of determination surged through her as she raised it high. The light flickered, casting long beams across the oppressive twilight. "Show me!" she yelled, pressing the shutter button. With a blinding flash, the camera unleashed a torrent of truth, a whirlpool of memories, both bitter and sweet. She grasped at the vision before her. She saw the park again, children laughing, her mother holding her close, whispering promises of sunshine and dreams. But lurking behind were the terror-fueled faces, twisted into masks of despair, looming shadows cast by dark secrets. "I see you!" she cried, and the darkness shrank back, hissing in rage. "I'm not afraid anymore." With renewed vigor, she pressed the camera's shutter again and again, each flicker of light revealing the hidden horrors of Willow Creek. The images surged, her neighbors' sickening grins, photographs of disappearing families, gatherings cloaked in deception. The town she loved morphed into a grotesque theater of suffering. The shadows recoiled violently, their grip losing strength under the weight of her truth. "No, stop!" they screeched in unison. "You must not unveil our secrets!" Rachel stepped further into the light, the warmth wrapping around her like a protective shroud. "But I must! My family, my children deserve to know the truth. The people here deserve to break free." Suddenly, those familiar figures materialized within the chaos. Friends, family, once joyous souls now bound by shared despair. "Help us, Rachel!" they cried, their voices mingling with hers, a desperate plea that resonated through her very being. A rush of connection poured into her, an avalanche of emotions flooding her heart. Memories of love and laughter interspersed with heartache and loss spun together, an intricate tapestry of existence in Willow Creek. But as bubbles of pain surfaced, a soft glow seeped through, revealing an alternative. The figure of light stood firmly beside her. "You are not alone. With every truth you uncover, you ignite hope within their hearts. You can lead them back." The shadows howled in fury. With every snapped photo, the darkness twisted, layer after layer of secrecy peeling away, revealing the fractured community that had long lived beneath a facade of normalcy. "Join this fight!" Rachel screamed, desperation swirling in her voice. "Face your fears! Break the cycle!" The figures hesitated for a fleeting moment, their faces shifting from horror to recognition. Behind the lingering shadow of fear, something flickered, a spark of defiance igniting in their eyes. One by one, the others stepped forward, clinging to the light that Rachel held. "We remember!" they cried, the chant growing stronger, resonating against the veils of darkness. "We will break free!" The shadows writhed, shrieking in agony as the collective strength of their memories united, lighter than the burdens they had carried. The camera throbbed, echoing with a fierce heartbeat, lighting up one last time. "One last shot!" Rachel shouted, firing off a final luminous flash, illuminating the truth in full. As the blinding light engulfed them, the darkness recoiled in horror, shrieks of torment filling the air. The once twisted faces began to shift back into forms of clarity. Joy, love, and shared laughter rekindled as the shadows waned. With an explosive surge of brilliance, the darkness shattered completely, shattering the chains of fear binding her community. The lingering cries of despair faded like echoes in the wind, leaving a profound silence hovering in its aftermath. Rachel stood panting, surrounded by a kaleidoscope of light and renewed hope. In the aftermath, her neighbors began to emerge from the fog of disillusionment, their faces appearing with soft smiles and tears glistening in their eyes. The burden of truth had broken their chains, but not without leaving scars. "Willow Creek needs to heal," Rachel murmured, glancing around at the faces of her friends, family, and neighbors, now united once more. In the aftermath, as the sun slowly rose, warmth filled the air,
wrapping the group in a promising embrace. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but together they could face the remnants of betrayal, reclaiming the light lost in their past. Rachel took a deep breath, relief flooding her veins. "This is our moment," she declared. "It's time to move forward together." And as her words echoed in the new dawn, she knew one thing for certain. The journey from darkness to light had begun. Healing was possible, and the power of truth would guide them all the way home. Now, as you've journeyed with Rachel through the depths of darkness into the light, remember this is just the beginning. If you want to keep exploring these intense emotional stories, you need to subscribe now. Smash that like button for support. Seriously, it helps more than you know. Flood the comment section with your thoughts and reactions. Let me know your theories about what happened in Willow Creek.
And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this gripping tale unfolds. Your support keeps the stories coming, so join the adventure today.